All right, so I was listening to this tape as I'm transferring it, and yeah, I was like very confused as to what the purpose of the tape was. It seems like it's a sales meeting between maybe a distributor and Rhiengold beer, or distributor of Rhiengold beer, or division of Rhiengold beer. I never drank a Rhiengold beer because I'm not 112 years old yet. But the other thing is that these are from 1959, and I love the cadence, the way people talked back then. Then you have regional accent, New England, Boston specifically, because that's where I bought the tapes or got the tapes. And also you have ethnic versions of different New England accents or Boston accents or both. It's like you hear lots of Italian immigrants, obviously Irish immigrant. We came to that area through that country over there, and the green country, my favorite color. And so I forgot what I was talking about.
All right, fine. You were saying what?
Yeah, last night, when that happened, I, tried looking at cerebral convulsions or anything like that. And I happened to come across the 4-year, how they more or less sum up the 4-year-old child,
Yeah.
And I was sitting there laughing. Don kept on looking at me because the Vic Gregory, I never saw him fall into such an age pattern so perfectly. I'm right to a T, to the words that they were using, the different, like they would say that 4-year-old child will say this type of a phrase or this wording or that type of, right to a T. And fit him, this belligerent, they say that the outer bounds type of an age. Their discipline really has not too much effect on them. You can discipline them, but they're going to defy you, and they seem to thrive on it more. And this profanity, Gregory, over Don's mother's house the other day, he dropped his trains, he said, God, no.
Jesus Christ Almighty.
Jesus Christ Almighty, and Don's mother was that stuff. Oh, because you're not supposed to use the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
And he's, saying all these different swears. And it fit him to a pattern. So I decided in my own mind, because of one simple fact, this is what I have decided. Because Gregory has needed this type of, not with us necessarily, but to show it to his other children. He's not been defiant to them and been able to stick up for his rights with other children, So I would more or less let him be, I think. On certain things, naturally, I still have to put my foot down. If I've made you breakfast, this is what you eat, and it's time to go to bed, you go to bed. But I believe the other things, I'm going to try to ignore it. Because I would rather have him stand up to his friends and be bossy and belligerent to them for a while, because he's never done it.
Yeah.
I would rather see it in him a little bit.
Yeah.
And this phrase doesn't last that long that I won't go crazy in a matter of 6 months, neither will he,
Yes, this is a good point. I still would give the same answer though to Don in a certain way anyhow, that I'd rather see a kid learn in the home, how to, not to get petrified of being yelled at, because damn it,
definitely.
I've seen kids,
I'll tell you, my children aren't petrified to be
They
yelled
just
at.
stand there and holler right back at you.
My little 2-year-old girl doesn't faze her, but she'll come up and slap me. She does, and she'll tell me, no, you shut up, you go away.
Yeah, they do as we do.
Yeah.
He
They
screams.
do,
He'll
yeah.
scream at the top of his lungs, Gregory will.
Now,
Oh, they're not afraid of yelling, that's for sure.
that it's, there is a point there that it sometimes is good if one can do it without being too uncomfortable too. We're not yell, except, important things. We yell, for everything for fun of it, but
That's
it
no, so it
doesn't
has
work.
no effect.
That's right.
No, it has no effect.
Well, usually you try at the beginning to talk to them in a normal tone of voice and try, say, no, sit down and be a good boy and eat your supper, talk to them in a good tone, and then that doesn't work. Then eventually you get to the point where you're a lot firmer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And a certain amount of it, you just grin about. You don't rise to the challenge and everything. But
Yeah, not to rise to the challenge is the thing.
I personally can't do that.
Yeah, neither can I.
I personally, go, "Whoa!" But, I think in principle it's a good thing, but, there are difficult ages, and in some way that's a difficult one. That both your kids, they get so much damn energy.
Oh, I wonder where they get it.
The damn Wheaties.
Oh, Wheaties, and they don't eat that much.
I wouldn't feed them Wheaties.
What?
The hell with it. I mean, they've got so much energy. I mean, I swear to God that I think Wheaties and things like that do account for the fact that Americans grow so much, bigger than people live in the old country. I think so. But, that we never had, older folks, they never had this kind of...
I think our vitamins count for it more.
Yeah, but, you mean you give vitamin pills?
No, vitamin supplement, liquid vitamin.
Well, all right, but this is, to my mind, the same thing about it.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, because, when we grew up, all we had was Wheaties. See, nowadays, they do have,
In addition to Wheaties, they have
That's right.
vitamins.
That's right.
Just for bell things now.
Sure. But, I could see where he'd be, kind of tough. Now, I raised my kids strong on the side of discipline. I didn't have that kind of trouble because, they were too scared to. And they have to learn that now a little bit more. I mean, you can't raise them good each way.
No.
You can't.
Well, I always thought myself to be rather firm, actually. But you see, where the firmness lost out is when I lost control of myself.
Well, I mean, I would say about you that your bark is worse than your bite.
Oh, yes. And no, it is.
You're not mad at me anyway.
No.
No, I think that basically it's that they have the spirit. That's what they have. It isn't a question of...
My daughter, Andrea, without exception, and I can see it myself, and that's why I laugh. Because my family had always told me how I just wanted my own way, and there was just no two ways about it. I mean, I got it, or everybody else, had to hear about it. And she, even at this early age, she will fight to the bitter end. Doesn't she, Dawn? To the very bitter end, she'll fight to get her away. And I look at her and I have to laugh. Because, she is. If I've ever seen a duplicate of myself, it's in her.
But the thing I like to say, that reminds me of what I was trying to say and said clumsily before in regard to Gregory. You see, you can't very well, control Gregory without controlling
Right.
Andrew. And this is where, in a way I can see your point, so many kids at once. Because you just can't. I mean, it's very hard to impose separate control, especially at that age.
You can't. That's it. You can't.
Do it.
Like Andrea.
So in a way, you want to deal with Andrew, with Gregory, you're going to have to, be prematurely a little bit, do it with Andrew. I think balance it out. I mean, is it so much?
Well, don't you think we do it enough to Andrea?
Sure. When they go to bed, she goes to bed at the same time, and if she doesn't go, she'll be reprimanded.
Yeah, but what about this business, that she defies Marguerite, see?
Yeah.
And that, you see,
And that's what he's saying to define,
he
too.
sees it, and he can't, now that I've said it, it's obvious that he can't really, control her.
Right.
And somebody ought to, tell your mother in that regard that she ought to quit making. I think she made a remark, that she's more boy than he is.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
pushed him. She taunted him almost. I mean well, she shouldn't do it, but a lot of people do that, which they shouldn't always do. And
Yeah.
So
I'll have to remind them.
yeah, because well, now the other one has just gone out.
Well, occasionally we make reference that way ourselves.
Yes, we do.
Andrea's strong as a bull. Look at her.
Yeah, because she is. It's just amazing. She can grab hold of Gregory and knock him down and keep him there. And if he wants him to do something, if she doesn't want to do it, boy, hell or high waters can make her do it. She'll just say no, and that's all there is to it. And then again, at times she's so much of a little baby. Of course, she's only 2.
Well, but you see that.
Of course, I give Gregory a lot of privileges that Andrea doesn't have. Like Andrea can't go out on the street by herself, and Gregory can. And Andrew takes a nap and Gregory doesn't. Of course, I guess he's too young to be able to see where, you know.
Well, there's another factor in there. I just dawned on me. Girls mature faster.
Right.
And then, you know, the rest of their life, you know, they pay for the privilege because, you know, after all, animals mature much faster than humans. You know, this
Right.
means that they're mildly a subspecies.
Right.
Subspecies, you know.
Subspecies,
Yeah, you know, the longer the childhood, you know. And I had forgotten this, but this is true in a way, isn't it? That the girls do tend to, you know, mature.
I would say the majority of them do, right.
And in this particular case, she has learned more because she came after Gregory. She
I mean,
learned from
immediately
him.
after him.
Yes, but she
Yes.
still learned from him.
Yeah, and that one, you know, you're better parents than were. I mean, that you know, that
Definitely,
this is
yes.
a factor for sure. That if you're all, you know, better as a parent, as you tend to be. But I would eliminate that from my vocabulary. That she's more of a boy than he is,
Right, yeah.
because it almost forces him to come to defiance, prove he's a boy, kind of thing.
True,
I
true.
mean, that.
I don't really mind the defiantness too much. If he'd only show it outside the house a little bit more to his friends, not so much in the house. He shows it more in the house than he does outdoors. Of course, I have, and it's awfully hard for me to go because I just don't. I'm always worried that he's going to get hurt or something, and I'm always, you know, watching and listening. My ears always tuned to Gregory, not to Andrea, but to Gregory. It's always tuned, and I always, if Gregory gets hurt, I feel it so much more than I'll ever feel it with Andrea. His friends, he can't fight them, so to speak. He can't boss them around. He resorts to screaming and yelling, you know, instead of swinging. If they take a hit at him, he comes running home. I realize it's my own fault because I'm always ready there. Gregory, what's the matter? You know? And if it's one of the children's fault, I say, well, look at it. If you can't play, go home. I'm always ready there to protect him. It is a mistake, actually, because he doesn't learn to stick up for his own rights there. And was it Saturday? There was 3 children in the yard. He was kicking them out of the yard, swinging and taking the 3 of them on. He never yelled once. He was fine. Up until I poked my head out the window, and I said, leave the fence alone, kids, because they were shoving the fence towards him, the gate rather. I leave the gate alone, children. And then he started coming in the house yelling, Lily hit me. The minute I opened up my big mouth.
Yeah, and this is not, it can't be helped to some degree, because you've got to raise him to be careful with the smaller sisters. See? The smaller kids. Any older kid is going to be that way somewhat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, yes.
So, it all means I wouldn't worry that much about it, but I would squelch people who go around saying she's more of a boy than...
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
If they say that, I would say, God, we got to start worrying about her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
They'll squelch him.
Yeah. I'm going to do that, definitely.
But that's a tricky one, right?
That's right.
To worry about her.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, mothers seem quite natural indeed.
Yeah.
And that he's a ball of fire, you know, Gregory. I mean, they both are. They got tremendous energy, and it's good. I mean, but kids who aren't lethargic, they're that way more. They're a little more, you know, to have a ball of fire, you got to expect a little more sensitivity, a little more intensity. I mean, he's got it. He's good.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, and he tried. Jesus, he was trying with those golf clubs. That was tremendous. You know, he don't give up. He'll tackle anything, the little guy.
Well, you know, that's the part I've often felt very guilty about, having the children one right after the other. I've never really been able to give any one of them any time to sit down and read. I've never read to any of my children, really. Occasionally I'll pick up a book, but then you have to do something else, you know, so fast, because with 3 of them, you may not be able to imagine it, but there's always something to do. And I've never been able to sit down and teach them anything or sit down and play with them for any reasonable length of time at all, and it has made me feel very guilty, because I know people who have, that their children seem to have a keener interest in things, where I don't think neither of them do any real particular interest in anything.
Yeah. That they do what you do. They keep hopping from one thing to another.
Yes.
I would somehow, you know, just make it a kind of a point to when you're reading to them and as other things happen, you take care of them, but not as major projects. You know, be back in a minute, do it quickly, go back.
Mm-hmm.
The time I tend to be this jumpy kind too, somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
There's some sense in that, you know, that they do jump around like that.
They do.
And you sometimes, I just pull myself away. I won't answer phones, nothing. I got to concentrate on something more.
Right.
This kind of thing.
Right.
You know, because sure, all kinds of things come up, you know, but
Well, I don't mean things coming up. I mean just the regular routine. Do you realize feeding like the baby one certain kind of food and then giving her bottle and then giving her bath? And in between that, you've got to feed the children, the rest of the children. I mean, none of these
but
children
what if you
don't
put into your schedule 1/2 hour to read with them?
Yes.
Or,
I mean,
this
can
is
be
not
done.
going to be, and that would be a priority, see? You would do that primarily that half hour. It's, you know, if you try to do it all the time, you'll go crazy. But if you put it, add it to one of your calls, you know, you're calling customers anyhow, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be worried at all, you know, about Mario's reaction. I think it's a good initial reaction, but I would be worried about it some. But I wouldn't expect difference, you see, at first. And that I would think that I'd let him listen to goddamn tape anyhow if he wants. He'd probably be curious. And the other thing is, you know, to review just a little bit, that I still think there's something to it that each of us, you know, beats ourselves some. And I have a feeling that there is something that smoking, that non-smoking of Mario's. He don't quite enjoy himself enough. Now, I may have seen him at a bad time, but the way I was listening back, and the way you put it one place, that if you don't drink and you're selling beer, you don't make a point of saying, I don't drink beer. You kid yourself in a way. And this kind of thing, or this is this business. You got to believe in your products in a kind of a little different way, but I think it's true. I think that the idea, you know, of making a kind of sociological map of that damn Framingham. Is Natick in your territory too?
Sure.
Yeah, Natick,
Oh.
Waltham, Wellesley.
Waltham?
Yeah, right to Newton. Fox, up as far as Foxborough,
Oh, yeah.
halfway down to Wellesley.
Should have brought a map in so I could show you.
Framingham, yeah, the Framingham map.
But you see, his feeling is that, from what I've been able to analyze from him, is that he feels that I have revealed certain secret things. I'll just read you some of his comments so that you can, I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget. I know what I am, and I don't need an outsider to tell me. We know what the problems are. You must have given him a lot of inside information, personal. You should not have done this without a board of directors meeting. I know what's wrong with the company. Don't you think I know the members of my family better than he would? And he said, I'm keeping a copy of the report only for one reason, in reference to that little paragraph where you referred to Volpe and Doherty. You know?
He like that?
Yeah. That was his excuse for keeping the report.
Keeping the whole report.
Read it.
I think in a way it's good that he said that, because there is something to that point.
Point about playing favorites. You know, when he's saying, well, he says, if we did go into something like this, he says, would he be strictly objective? We discussed that point, if you recall.
Yeah.
I think Marguerite brought it up, that he would think in terms that you would favor me over him or something like that. But he was very rebellious about it.
Well, I think that this is somewhat normal. I mean, that I suppose any one of us would feel that way if we felt that all kinds of things have been discussed. But people have a funny thing about, you know, the number of, the value of secrecy. There is not that much. So what the hell can one do with most of the information one gets? You know, I don't know. That
Unless you can make money out of
price,
it.
if I learned that much, I'd be in the beer business now making a fortune.
That's right. Well, he mostly, I think what he's afraid of is that he's afraid that he's going to come under some personal analysis. The minute they hear psychiatrist, and I know that he suffers from some kind of a complex, I might use the term as a layman, And he said to me, stop trying to be an amateur psychologist. When I first got out of college, I remember that bit. And then he said the same thing. He says, just because you had a little smattering of college, you even got a little nasty about it, you know. Don't think that you're... I says, I have no idea whatsoever that I'm a psychologist.
But this is in line, I think, with the way a tendency he has. It shows also with customers
Yes, oh yes.
that he gets nasty.
Mario.
Mario gets nasty, and you know, thinking and you know, God bless it, a person in business or a salesman has a right to. But I think that the thing that's very grasp, I don't think he notices that
No,
he does it, and the relationship it may have with, you know, his. He isn't doing the business he wants in a sense. I'm sure he does that at times. He'll get, you know, when they don't buy, he'll get mad. He gets really nasty. He doesn't get mad to scare them or to, you know, yak them into buying.
Doesn't yell at them or anything. It's a
Well, how can
nasty
he-
kind of degrading them, and if they don't agree with him, I can't put it into words, but I can just picture the way he does it. He does it with facial expressions and
Sort of like a snob.
as if he's repulsed by you.
Yes, like he is by cigarettes.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he gets repulsed quick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he would be better off to have a lot of money. If he was real rich, his personality would be pretty good, you know. He'd go around and have charities and this and that,
That's
you know,
right,
and
that's
that he's much more kingly, you know. He's much more royal than I am, and I think than you are in a sense. I mean, although you're more than, you know, in a certain way than she is. I mean that you, kind of, well, it's a kind of princely royal trait. I don't know how to describe it, but they hold themselves above a bit.
Right, right.
And there's a lot of value in that. I think we got to be careful to not overlook the positive aspects of the very points what it brings out that. You know, he's looking down on people somewhat that he won't accept contracts with them unless they're pretty good, I suppose. I don't know, but I mean that there has to be some positive in it too. But I think that basically it's not a matter of, you know, finding fault with any individuals that much, but of figuring out some imagery that would be more successful. In that regard, I've got to ask this: that any developments on the business of their selling, you know, lowering the price.
No, other than that they're going to lower the price on certain items.
Right? You know, and if you've had any time to think of it, what do you think? Do you think this would be out of line with the imagery they have? You know, as a kind of superior beer? And this New Yorker thing captures it. It's just kind of a, you know, in a somewhat ridiculous way. Rhiengold's a kind of precious type of thing.
Right.
Well, to a point, I think, but provided that they don't do it all the way across the board.
To a point, you think it's all right to lower it.
Yes.
All right, because I think if you got imagery happy, you know, and thought only in terms of imagery, you go broke too, because
That's right.
you get too strict about it. I think it will interfere somewhat with the image they have, but you know, since lower price is a big deal too. But they have, it could be an invitation. The business of the ballot boxes, you think that there's something to it that they could be raised in tone a little bit? I mean, just kind of reviewing, that's all. What I just real quick going over it, what I remember anyhow.
Yes, that's true.
All right. The next one that I remember is that you know, about that test and whether the test would mean much without backing from the damn company, and whether it wouldn't be better in principle to, instead of you're paying for it, let them pay for it. See? And that whether you tend to feel a little teeny bit anyhow, kind of you got to prove to them. I mean, they're the kind of people, you know, some people they kind of make you prove to them how good you are in advance, which is sometimes a difficult thing.
Yes.
All right, and it's a quick review one, and you tell us what you got there. You got a lot of things there.
Well, first of all, I wanted to return this frothy ferment, but wait a minute.
Oh.
And I let him read this, you know.
Yeah.
He went through it pretty quickly. What do you think he stopped and read? Complete for contraception. He says, here's something for you in here. This is for you, he says.
Well, let me say, I didn't notice
I
that.
didn't even notice it myself. I'm looking at it.
Offer you the most for your discriminating patients.
See, he's,
Talking about birth control, I say.
yeah.
He's trying to stop the birth of ideas.
Oh, very good. I didn't think
He's
of it.
afraid of it.
He's
That's
afraid
the
of it.
first thing that struck me when he started talking about contraception. First I took it as a personal affront, and I said, wait a minute, why does he refer to that? Then it flipped into my mind. I said, he's an idea,
Sure.
birth of an idea, and he wants to stop it.
Sure. Also, I think of it in terms of a guy that quits smoking or drinking beer, going around screwing around on the side for fun. Because he don't need birth control as your sister, does he?
No.
And even though he's not doing it, or let's say he's not doing it, you know, one thinks of it. All right, that you sometimes give up some pleasure, you think of others. Damn it, kind of thing. Well, anyhow, since you're not in the business of selling contraceptives, you get free rubber with each. Were you the guy that told me the one about the
Consonants.
constable? That's good. You see. Yeah, that's a novel. That's very good. Only other one I heard was, the daughter calls down to her mother, "Mother, is the Iceman come?" And she yells back, "Nobody's breathing hard." Not too good. Those Italian ones were wonderful. Couldn't tell them because. So this, but this is not a bad little article. It doesn't. It brings out certainly. It's been a mainstay in life, kind of.
That's right.
And it isn't a. It has, it's. If civilization means anything, and there's any accomplishment in civilization, part of it's through the beer, because beer has been the primary drink.
You see, he actually gets sort of very childish. Like, for example, when he said, "I must have given you a lot of personal information which I had no right to give," and so forth. I said, "There's nothing personal about it. There was no real personal information revealed." I said, and he kept repeating that idea that I gave you. I shouldn't have done it without consulting the board of directors and all this kind of stuff. And I said, "This is something you were asking for ideas." I said, "This was something that I was developing. I was working on. They have to present an idea." I said, "What do I do? Just come in and say, this is the idea, and nothing concrete, no actual preliminary?" I said, "What do you present? Just throw a paragraph in the air?" And he went back to that chicken, and I said, "There was nothing personal." I said, "You read that report? There's nothing." He said, "You must have a guilty conscience. You keep saying nothing personal." I said, "I got the guilty conscience." Then after a while, I began to realize it was ridiculous to argue with him because I reached an impasse with him. Because he just had that barrier there. So I just went about my work and walked off, and that was the end of it.
Yeah. But, well, of course, this is one of the problems, Mario, how much he is open to influential ideas from the outside. I have a feeling, in a way, that Volpe and Doherty weren't completely wrong, that he's a little hard to deal with, Mario. And yet he has a lot of quality, too. The thing I've got to know, in a way, I don't know whether you know, and I don't think it's such personal information either, that has he been riding on your father's building the business pretty much, or has he contributed pretty good? I mean,
Well, I would say,
yeah, he's hard to estimate, yeah, but what?
I would say this way, that he's riding on the fact that he advertises many times that when he was a fellow in school, in high school, how he used to call on a route and so forth, and how he started right from as a young boy working, which we all did. I was sweeping the floors when I was old enough to even pick up a broom. When I was in high school, I was driving a truck delivering groceries and delivering beer all summer long, and so forth. I mean, he wasn't the only one that did it. Then he got to a stage in his life where he started just kicking around, playing it up. And he always had a car ever since he was a kid, 16 years old. I never owned a car until I graduated from college. you know. He had his reward, so to speak, and he has felt that he has contributed considerably. However, over the past, what'd you say, 7 years, or at least 5 years, he feels that he's been the mainstay, that he has held the business together, that he has developed new ideas, that he has presented different things into the business, and that he's kept the business more or less going and together. That he himself, he has that concept. As a matter of fact, in reference to that, if I may, just for a minute before I forget, he was referring like to you. He says, I'm not afraid. He says, I have nothing to hide. He says, if anyone comes in and analyzes, he says, I've done my work. I'm doing my work. I'm carrying more than my share. I'm not afraid. That kind of talk. He has nothing to hide.
But now, apparently it sounds a little bit defensive anyhow, and I would be defensive if I was in his position too. But
True.
in the last 5 years, the business hasn't done that good.
No.
And that this is not only Mario's fault, it's been a tough period, but in a way the facts don't bear him out. He's kind of held it together in a sense. But it hasn't prospered that much anyhow.
No. And
who was responsible for the shift over from groceries when that was dead?
When we get to that point, in the business where we had to either double or triple the grocery business, or go into it more in a big way, or get out. And I guess he more or less pressed for it. He and Joe.
Your father was alive then?
No, father was dead. This was only 1952. Father was dead. And I more or less held back because I more or less had a more of a kindred soul towards the grocery business, I guess. And but yet was discouraged by the fact that there was dissenting, remarks against it, and that we were wasting our time. So that we finally did get out of the grocery business. But my brother Joe didn't want to have anything more to do with it because we were, maybe factually on a black and white basis, they were right, but who knows?
It may have been a mistake to drop the whole thing anyhow.
Yes, could be.
Had the beer been added before Father died?
Oh yes, the beer was in since Prohibition. We had beer right along with the groceries. And another factor was the fact that we were paying wages, beer driver wages, for them to haul groceries, which made your overhead a little higher too.
Yeah.
But the alternatives were to go on a cash and carry basis, like some of these grocery houses like Hub Cash and Carry, where the people come to you, you give them a good price because they pick it up and they pay cash for it.
Or what would you say, what major idea did he contribute, would you say?
Well, I think one of his major assets was the changing, the financial structure and borrowing money, and more or less his political tendencies with talking to various suppliers,
All right, he's been pretty good about now.
He's pretty good about that. I mean, he knows how to talk and shake hands and so on.
Yeah.
But actually, his main fault is that we've discussed this before, he wants all the credit, but he never takes the blame. And he always feels that he's blamed for everything, he doesn't get the credit.
He wants more of the credit, for how he's made the business grow than he wants the business to grow.
That's right. And if you followed me the way I said it, he's the kind of a fellow that he wants to take the credit, but not take the blame. But in converse, he thinks that he's getting all the blame and not enough credit.
Yeah, but if he only would focus on the business growing and never mind the credit blame so much. It's like, with kids sometimes we get more worried about are we going to get credit as good parents or blamed as bad parents, and we don't even notice, the main, the thing from which credit or blame should ensue, and we don't notice that in our kind of, narrow view of it, we're missing the point. I have a feeling that he wants more to be right than and he doesn't, I don't think he's aware that he is not focusing so much on the business really, but that he turned out to be right or brilliant or something. God knows we all tend to do that at times, but I think it's true of it. Now, the next thing would be this, that I'd like to go into the matter of a little more of what is a guy that's in a business like you or Mario, what do you do all day? It's an interesting business. Ask somebody what they do. Ask a psychiatrist what they do. You'll get all kinds of crazy answers, Yeah, but it's important if you could figure out what the hell people do. If you knew, it should be a big help in trying to figure out what kind of an image might be helpful in that, because most people, they go about doing, they don't have a clear-cut idea of what the hell they're doing. And it, oftentimes, maybe for all of us, the growth of the business escapes us.
That's true.
What the hell does a person do all day?
Well, the first thing I'll just give you a brief resume. The first thing when you come in the morning, naturally, is the shipper probably has some problems. He discusses it with me about shipping or going to pick up something, or something's wrong with a truck. He wants to know whether he should take the truck up to the garage and have the brakes fixed, and a lot of minute things. But primarily the salesmen are there, those that come in, and you remind them of certain things, and they discuss some of their problems with you, what they have with a customer, and after the salesmen are gone...
Well, so far, what you're doing is you're kind of, you're the guy that writes, signs the checks, but they're bringing all their complaints, all the things need fixing. So you're kind of listening to what needs fixing and giving the nod, yes or no.
Yes, and trying to fix. Fix.
And then the second thing, is a kind of a hound dog to keep the salesman happy.
Yes.
So you're kind of a fix-it, somewhat like, like you're like a mother of a family, Some mothers are more than a father in the sense that you have to go get permission. Can I go to the store, Mom? And sometimes you'll ask me, we'll ask Papa, but kind of that kind of thing. All right. I'm going to describe it in somewhat nasty terms that might give it a bolder relief. Go ahead, yeah. It's funny, to sit and think, what the hell we do.
That's true. And then the mail usually comes in, and in the mail you have various correspondence or problems that may come in through the mail, bills or a dunning letter or something like that, and you look for checks, for example. My brother Connor, I throw him all the checks to open up because he makes up the deposit sheet, so I don't want to waste time opening up letters with checks in them, except that I ask him to bring to my attention any of those that are payments from delinquent accounts, or if I'm looking for a check from an account that should pay.
He opens up the checks.
Yes.
But you open up the rest.
Yes, because I think you get the feel of the business if you have the communications crossing your desk. Correspondence with suppliers and information from them.
You're kind of a post office, you're now they do in the post office, the guy working there, he throws the damn, letters across the box.
Feed it around.
But you get the, yeah.
Any information that I have to pass on to the mail that comes for Ed, and I give him the information on the common, or anything that has to go to someone, I put it in the mail envelope. It goes.
It's a good point, I think, that, if you're the center of the mail, you do get a feel for it.
Yes,
the input-output.
That's right. You sort of get the feel of everything. Even if it's just, you see an invoice coming in for a load of whiskey, you remember that so many cases of whiskey came into your warehouse. It's stuff that goes like that. I mean, you don't spend too much time on it, just as long as it takes. And then there's a lot of literature, material that comes in, which you never have time for. You just stack it. You try to, if you have the opportunity, you try to just quickly go through it and pick out the thing that is of interest to you. Like right here, for example, I just put the marker here for about Liebem, so that the next time when I have an opportunity, I'll just pick it up and I'll just read this instead of going through the whole thing. In other words, you try to...
What are you going through it for? What are you looking for, in a sense?
Just general information. Anything that hits the eye, for example. Anything, an idea for me, or information about a supplier of mine, or information about competition, what my competition is doing. You also have to know what your competition is doing.
Yeah. Well, Serge tells me that Kimberly Clark, is, boy, they got a real thing on. They don't even notice the competition. He says it's many years before they even knew that there was such a product as modus in a sense. And that they're going to hit trouble one of these days because, you know, when they first started Kleenex and Kotex, when they first started Kotex, nobody else made that stuff.
That's right.
But they still act somewhat that way. But you got to watch your competition.
True.
All right. So you're looking it over. You don't know quite why you're looking it over, except that to keep in touch in a kind of general way.
That's right.
You know, at least the image isn't in your mind that strongly that you're looking over, you know, to see what the hell to keep the business growing. You know that it's an interesting thing that we're looking for ideas, you know, and yet it doesn't dawn on us that when we look through the mail, actually what we're doing is looking for ideas, and it would be, I think, a little better to be more aware that you go through the mail for ideas, and that if the imagery of you know, people doing work for you sounds partly it's so, that it ought to be, you know, one is surveying the day, what can we do to get the business to grow? To keep it running at the present, because if you only think of it growing, it'll flop at the present, but you know that I say most of your time goes to keeping it running effectively as is, but looking over the mail in a sense. Now the communications is, if you had a little more specifically in mind, what the hell ideas to get the business to grow, and you almost had a sheet that you could, or a little folder put in to bring it off to family meetings. Because a lot of times you do things you don't quite know what you're doing. Sometimes it helps to sharpen down a little bit. That because this in a sense you're doing. I bet that Lieberman thing is something that has something to do with something you ought to know, which is either in the direction of keeping the business going or getting it to grow.
True.
Yeah.
True. And you reach that point, and then from there, you either go out in the trade, you go out and start making calls, or depending upon your schedule, you may have an appointment with a supplier coming in to visit you and to talk to you about certain problems. Each day is different.
Well, you go out in the call, what do you do then?
Go and call the customers.
What do you mean call on customers? Let's say, I don't know what the hell you mean. I mean, what do? You go out and give them help or not buying, or you gossip with them, or what do you do?
Each one's a different approach. One customer, for example, you might want to get money out of them. Your objective in that place is to get money.
Well, how do you know where to go? You sit down and write out a list, or what?
Yeah. You just don't go out and drive off and say, well, I'm just going to drive.
Well, how often do you call back on a customer? How often do you see each of your customers in the course of a year? Oh, I mean, what's...
Oh, I'd say approximately. Some customers you see more often than others, naturally. But generally speaking, I try to make it a point to see all my customers at least twice a year.
And you got enough to keep you busy a couple hours a day, 2 hours a day?
Oh, sure.
No. Do you write, you know, do you root yourself, or you just tend to do it freewheeling, you know, free association? I mean...
Well, many times it's rooting myself. Other times it's just freewheeling. You just go. You go to one place, and then you hit this particular place, and then the idea comes that you'll go to another account, and sometimes you just go along that way. Other times you just pick up a salesman, work with a salesman for a while. Just go along.
Well, it sounds like you make a point to be sure to get out in the trade every day.
Yes.
What the hell's so important about that? I'm just questioning, I don't know. Hello. Well, I'd make it about maybe 9:30, right? Fine.
Well, the one thing about getting on the trade is in this particular business, they like to see the person they're doing business with. Plus the fact, getting out in the trade, you see actually what your salesmen are doing. You're not just listening to them giving you a lot of bull. You know, they can come back and sell you a good bill of goods and say they're doing this and they're doing that. And when you get out there,
yeah, but what the hell? I mean, you could achieve that by going out the trade, you know, every so often. You know, maybe once a week, once a month. You know, you could leave the office and pretend you're going out. They wouldn't know. But yet, it seems to me that you feel it's important anyhow, whether somebody can catch you cheating or not. It seems to me.
Well, it's important to get out, yes, because it's important to meet the retailer. The retailer meets the boss, and he feels warmer towards the house. Also, the important thing is to get out and try to sell. And
well, why don't you goof off? I mean, why don't you go off and say you're going to get? I mean, do you ever? You know, go out and say you're going out. You know, some character at the Children's Hospital is supposed to be running a department. That's what he does. He signs out, you know, for desk work. He's nowhere to be found. He ain't doing desk work. You don't you ever goof off?
Sure.
But I still get the feeling that you pretty religiously go out and call a trade. Maybe you enjoy it, I don't know.
Oh, I enjoy it. I don't go, as a matter of fact, I don't get as much as I'd like to tell you the truth.
Did you always enjoy it?
Oh, I've enjoyed it, well, it depends. Well, I used to have to go in a lot of these different joints, these bistros and places like that. I didn't enjoy it exactly. When I worked in Boston, some of the joints I used to go into, real broken down places. No, I would say that I enjoyed it all the time.
All right. All right. So, what do you do then? So you get back to the office then, or?
Well, either I make it back when the office is, I always get back to the office. Many times I don't get back, it's closed and everybody's gone, as far as that goes. But sometimes when I get back there, I finish off whatever I get on my desk. I try to put things in current file for something I want to refer to the first thing the next day. I put it in the current matters. You know,
All right.
pick it up at that point the next day.
How long would it take, you think, for it to show, if you didn't show up, you know, in a way that sales are not selling anyhow, the guys are out delivering and the orders coming in somewhat routine, the checks due? Could you absent yourself, like Dave Garraway's doing that more and more. He's away from his program, with colds now. Like, he didn't used to be. He's there all the time. I mean, how badly would it affect the business if you weren't there? Because I wonder, do you actually come in with orders yourself, or do you tend to avoid that because that's competing with the salesman?
Well, sometimes I come in with orders, and other times I say give it to the salesman so that I wouldn't compete with the salesman.
Yeah.
But I never refuse an order, naturally, when I'm talking to him.
Yeah.
Many customers resent the idea if you come in and you try to more or less work up an order. But if you talk to them to a point where you make them want to give you an order, it's a little different.
All right. Is it like, calling on friends, kind of? I mean, is it more fun than work?
If you know them well enough, it's fun. But if you don't, I mean, it's work. I mean, because you walk in more or less cold.
You mean like Khrushchev,
Obviously, you can't walk into, you don't know every customer the way you know a certain handful of customers.
All right, well, do you have a fair amount of times where people are glad to see you and they have a beer with you and everything, and it's like a social call almost.
Yes.
So in one way, he just doesn't work hardly.
No. Up to a point.
Yeah. All right.
And even the people that like to see you, they can keep talking to a point where it gets a little boring.
All right. So one of the things that I would think that you're saying is, in your daily work, one of the big problems you got is people talk too much. Either they talk too little or too much, and you spend a lot of your time, either getting them to talk more or to shut up or get to the point. That is, you're a talking flow regulator or something like that. Is it true?
To a point.
All right. Then you go back to the office, fix things for the next day, and then the next day you do the same
Well,
thing.
you come back to the office, there's messages, this guy wants you to call, and somebody else has a problem, or they're running out of a certain line of merchandise, and they want an order has to be made up. I mean, there's a lot of problems. The main problem, actually, is channeling these different things.
All right.
Main problem
This
is,
has to do with the routine running of the place. I mean, what should be routine? The everyday running, Is that right?
yes.
Deliveries and, This kind of thing mostly, huh?
The main problem is the like I say, channeling, the filing of certain things, ideas, notes. In other words, self-ordering. That's the main problem I think that,
What?
that I have.
Of self what?
Order.
Order in the business.
Myself.
Keep yourself in order.
Yes. Because you can get avalanched, snowed under with correspondence, paper, notes, things to remember. The main problem is to set it up so that you can do something with it quickly. Either file it, put it in postpone it to the time when it should be developed or worked on. That sort of a thing. You know?
Yeah.
So that you have more free time. In other words, not to be more or less subjected to so much detail that you don't see the big picture.
All right. So your work day by day is trying to keep free time open for yourself, a certain amount of it anyhow.
And yes,
You might say you spend half your day, this will be nasty, watch. Shove it off your work to other people. I mean, look at it the nastiest way you can.
to a point. If I had someone to shove it off, it would be better too.
All right. But, instead of doing, the temptation is do it all yourself in a way.
In a way, yes.
All right. Do you think Mario's day is any different? Do you think anybody's day is any different in this business?
Well, he has, down there, has a little different setup. You see, he has a sales supervisor whom he can just dictate things to carry out his orders. Well, the sales supervisor comes in and talks problems to him. You see, and he has my sister down there, two sisters who could act more or less like secretaries to him, but they're not as productive as they should be. But still, he has more or less people he can shove a lot of these things to. You see,
But
whereas up here, I'm more or less the general manager, the sales manager, the boss. All in one, like.
Right.
The credit manager. In other words, it's like I really don't have anybody I can say, well, here, you take this, you take that.
But what are mostly the problems that salesmen or, the shippers bring? I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, I get the feeling at times that maybe the problem is some guy comes in and he calls for an order, let's say. The shipper says, shall we ship him special? And, you have to look it over whether it's financially worthwhile. Is he a good customer? But, I mean, a lot of times you're resisting selling somebody something. Is that fair? Is that true?
Well, that doesn't come up too often, but that's one of the things that do come up. Primarily, he's looking for permission to do certain things that are out of the ordinary.
Is this a fair amount of it? Is that they're all looking for, they want the business to, shift around so they can sell, instead of, they're more interested in selling than they are in the welfare of the business in the overall. That this is true. Some businesses, the mill is subservient to sales. Sales have, put yellow banners on them and everything. They'll go out of their way to put yellow banners on the suit or whatever it is, you see. And, the salesman will sell a lot of stuff. The guys that cost account may be going crazy because it's costing them more to make the stuff than it is they're getting. But if the salesman is supreme, you can go broke too. Because they always will give special deals. They'll tend to.
Yeah, they have a tendency that you have to more or less be a break on them at times. But yet you have to push them too.
But what are the orders? What kind of orders do you give them? I mean, I don't understand when you see Mario gives orders to salesmen. See, I can picture myself there. All I could do is say to the salesman, I look at him and say, boys, get out and sell. I'd be like, football coach. Boys, get out there and fight for the company. I wouldn't know what to tell them specifically.
Well, for example, if you're down on a certain product, you're behind a year ago on an item, or your sales are showing a dip on another item, or things aren't progressing as best you expect them to. So then you take them to task on it. You say, for example, with a supervisor, I've been reading a report here, Our 12-ounce returnable bottles a year ago, we sold more than we did this month. What do you think is the story? What's your opinion of it? What's the story? So the sales supervisor starts either making excuses or giving reasons. And from that point, they either work out a plan or an idea or just put pressure on the men to look for that business.
I mean, he's kind of, what happened 10 years ago, there's a column in the paper. What happened a year ago today, what happened 10 years ago, 50. He keeps watching that in terms of business. And this
You have to do a certain amount of that,
fair.
to know where you're
But
going.
what difference does it make whether he sells more 12-ounce bottles, if he's selling more or something else? I mean, does it make any difference what kind you sell? See, I know with the Buick dealers, I didn't know this, but boy, they're under tremendous pressure to sell, let's say, if they got too many, Roadmasters, boy, they catch hell when they sell a special. They don't, they're supposed to really try to gouge the customer into changing his order from a special to a roadway, or whatever it was.
Yeah, Roadmaster is the largest sale.
But this is because, now this is why. They're shipped a certain amount of stuff, period. Certain number, one each car, and they got to sell before they can get more. Is this true in beer, that you're shipped a certain number, 12 ounce?
Oh, no. Well, you see, the 12-ounce, I just use that as an example, but let's take it as an example. 12-ounce returnable bottle is an item that's sold mostly in bars and cafes. That's the tall export bottle. You see? And figuring that if more people try it in the bars, they actually taste it and drink it, then when they go to the package stores, they'll ask for it.
The 12-ounce bottles is at the bars,
Yeah, bars and cafes and
I see.
restaurants.
but they can only sell it. They can only sell it to be drunk on the premises.
That's right.
What? How do you know whether what you do, is having any effect? I would think it'd be awfully hard. Can you tell it the change of an attitude on the part of a salesman, or?
Yes, you can tell a change in attitude, and then you have a daily figure run on each salesman. What they're doing in gross dollar volume this year is compared with last year. Day by
Can you
day.
really do that much about, their volume? I mean, it seems to me in a lot of ways the guy sells or not, he's a salesman or not, and that pretty soon they get so they deliver a certain number of sales. They got a routine, and that it's going to work a certain number of times and not. It seems to me that the progress of a salesman isn't that much influenceable.
No, but you see, they have to be guided and they have to be directed. I mean, you have to give them incentives. But if you don't, I mean, they'll follow the least line of resistance. I mean, they have a tendency to be order takers and not salesmen. If you don't point certain things out to them, if you don't show them what direction you're going in, you have to...
Bunch of amateur psychiatrists, right?
Yeah.
Marguerite sounds to me like, being in business is a good deal like, raising kids. You sit and watch all, what they're doing wrong. But
I have a feeling you think I'm not interested or something.
I do.
Oh, no. I'm listening. I'm listening.
You just look glove,
Is it boil bottle?
Yeah, it is.
You have a boil the size of a golf ball around.
That's why I can't close my arm and it gets tired leaving it out here. No, it's not.
All right. Get back there for a minute. That don't you every so often, wonder, whether, Jesus, most of it is kind of,
In one ear, not the other?
or you're just shooting in the dark. It sounds to me like,
True.
that poor Mario's caught in a position where he's the kind of, like a kind of mother that said, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And if you get 3 A's, why didn't you get 10 A's? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That's the type of
You just picking up all their faults, and whether the whole system of pointing out what people do wrong has that much good effect is somewhat open to question.
Yes, and you also have to give them a pat back too when they're doing something right and showing progress, or if they've done something that deserves credit. Actually, you just can't criticize them.
Well, do you think that perhaps one of the reasons people do it, and everyone I guess does it, is that this is a way that they're showing interest in the business, and as an owner don't show interest in the business and doesn't know what's going good and what isn't going good, this impresses the salesman gives them a esprit de corps, morale, more than the specific things they say. I don't know.
I don't feel that's true.
You have to.
Let
No,
the
no,
Let
salesman
them know
know.
that you know.
Yeah.
That's important.
Because if you aren't interested in what's happening in the business, what the hell should they be?
That's
That's true,
right.
exactly.
That's right.
You know, and that they'll take a certain amount of criticism and everything else because, after all, their work is
Of course.
unimportant. You see, you ever hear people complain at school that, geez, I wrote that big team and they didn't even look it over. Some people go crazy if they don't have, the evidence that other people are interested in what they do. They feel it's a waste of time. And that, I guess it's true with our kids. That's why yelling at them at times okay. Because, we're interested in what they do. I can see a danger easy as at times I can see a sales manager getting so goddamn over interested in every detail they do that it begins to backfire too.
True. You can't pick up every little thing. You have to look at the major things, and you also have to it's continually teaching too. Teaching them, how to, for example, plan their work and work their plan, and it's really tough because they have such set ideas, many of them, or they feel as though they're out on the road, and they know what they're selling, and it's hard to change a man's habits.
Well, that's why I think it's, anyone on reflection would, I don't think we think it, but I think on reflection anyone of us would wonder whether the system of pointing out faults in itself has ever worked. And I'm afraid a lot of sales managing ship, or, that's all a lot of owners do, is they end up like petulant old women or old men, what'd you do this for? What'd you do this wrong? And it becomes a custom, they just keep doing it. And I think that if there's a custom, you got to keep continuing it for a while anyhow until you see something better. But in a way that, from the positive side, what you're saying sounds to me as if one of the big jobs you got is keep your goddamn finger on the pulse of the company. And on how it's going in terms of past periods, you see. And how it's going in terms of competitors. You're kind of watching your damn kid or your racehorse, how they're doing in terms of, are they, I suppose it's like watching your kid grow or decline or whatever. And that it isn't so easy to tell the vitality of a company. And that that's what the owner does somewhat.
True, and that's true. And then one of the reasons for getting out is also that you get a better insight on a salesman, what he's doing in stores. For example, like was on one man's route last week, and he happened to be someone that just on paper I could see that each month he's progressing all the time. He's showing progress. He's very conscientious and so forth.
In sales or
In sales. And you're looking on paper, it looks good naturally. So, but when you get out in the field and you go into his stores and you see how he has this point of sale material up on the products that you sell. He has shelf position. You know that the reason for him going ahead is that he's doing all these things, and it makes you feel.
These things certain things actually work. Shelf position
That's
works.
right, shelf position on eye level, floor displays, And this is Joe and Eddie I'm talking about.
Who?
Joe Eddie, one of the salesmen.
Joanne, two people?
Eddie.
I thought you said Joanne and Eddie. But, husband and wife team out.
No. So that you can see why he is showing progress, because he's doing these things. Whereas another salesman, you go into his territory and you don't see those things. You see? And you realize why that salesman is progressing as he should.
And there are some pretty well-established points that will increase sales. As far as I know, that a salesman is any good at all. If he just keeps making his calls, he'll sell. And if he sticks to his approach and doesn't change it every time, it's like, a kid in a feeding schedule. If they're any good, they'll sell, and you can count on a certain number of sales. And then there are in each business specific things that will help, the placement. Yeah, and that things such as they don't try to influence too much a store owner's attitude, or because that would be an important thing too. That if a guy, every time somebody orders Rhiengold, he winces. I mean, they ain't gonna sell that much Rhiengold. I mean, I don't know. But it's mostly the mechanics of selling this place?
Yes, there are certain basic fundamental things that you do. For example, when you walk into a store, the first thing is to have a friendly greeting, a cheerful greeting. Like, good morning, Ed, how are you this morning? Lovely day. Rather than just walking in and standing there like a jamoke. You start off...
Looking what?
Like a jamoke.
And I'm not an adult.
All right.
Jamoke is an expression.
All right. All right.
Just the way it sounds.
Yeah.
The greeting you extend, the first thing, I mean, you sort of disarm the guy, in a way, rather than just coming in with a, how would you like if someone walked into your office and just looked at you and didn't say anything, or he just said, hello, like that, There's certain basic things that you do. You extend a personal greeting, you do it cheerfully, you more or less feel your way with him. He wants to give you an order, you take the order that he's given you, and then after he's given you the order, you go through your book of items to remind him if he's forgotten certain other items. And after you've reviewed your book, then you get into something special, for example, that we may want to push a particular wine. And you take a little bit of this time to talk about this special thing. You may have a sample in your bag and you show it to him. And then
each salesman sells everything.
That's right.
They sell everything from
That's right. That's right. So after you get through with that, then you might put up a piece of point of sale that you've carried in.
Right.
If it's not there.
Well, how come you don't do like other beer salesmen? You go in and you look at his stocks, find out how much he needs, replace it. The order, I understand the orders are
Well,
automatic.
I didn't want to go through all the detail.
Is this true that the orders are, that...
In most cases, they have the order ready for you. They know you're coming on a certain day, and they have your order ready for you. What they think they need. That's why you go through your book, to remind them if they've forgotten certain
Well, but a
things.
lot of places, isn't it true that they, your Kleenex sales, when you go into Safeway or, supermarket, you look at their Kleenex supplies, you bring it up to date, that's it. And you go tell them about it, and you may then add some ideas how they can sell more or try to do something other. But, they don't want to be bothered with every reorder, do they? I mean, don't most, busy store owners, if they sell a lot of goods anyhow, don't they want it's up to you to keep their shelves full like they want. To get them to change their shelf order, to put more of your goods on is a different thing, I suppose. But, I mean, is this true or
Look
not?
at business, it's a little different because there's more money invested in inventory.
But in other words, it's automatic, just simply replacing what's been sold. Is not so much a matter? You mean...
No, it's not that automatic. I mean, they themselves make up the order.
Uh-huh.
Unless they're going to try to whittle you out. You know what I mean? Sometimes some of the men won't give you the order or something, won't they? Like the retailer. If he's buying more products from somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is because beer, that most people don't buy that many types of items. I mean, because I was going to ask you this: how come in this business the retailers insist on writing their own orders, and apparently not in other businesses they ain't got time for that.
Well, you
Especially
see,
in the supermarket business, they ain't got time for
you
it.
didn't quite follow what
Yeah.
I was saying. They have the order of what they need, items that they need to replace in their inventory.
But they do it themselves instead of making you guys do it.
That's right. They do that. See? And then that's when you start to sell. After you take the order that they have made up, and you say...
Yeah, but I still want to know why don't they say, the hell with you guys, do that work yourself. I got a guy that sells these books, these paper-bound books. And Jesus, he's the guy that's got to go around and look at all the stands and see what the hell they need. And they, if he said to them, write an order, they'd tell him go to hell. They wouldn't do it because in that case, that it would take time, wouldn't it, to go look at the stock.
Yeah, this would take a considerable amount of time. You have hundreds of items.
But is the answer that in the beer business there aren't that many items, and that therefore the owners want to preserve the prerogative of...
No, you're talking about two different things, beer business and liquor business.
I mean the whole thing.
We're talking about the whole thing.
Yeah.
That the owners, you throw a case of liquor and that's $50.
Yeah.
You throw in a case of bound books, that's probably, what, $20?
there's more money involved in a case of beer, whereas the salesman came in and left you more beer than what you needed. That's more money tied up.
Not so much beer as in the liquor.
Well,
Yeah, but let's say you know a customer, and you know that, doesn't any customer ever say, look, first place, just keep up the stock I got, I'll let you know if I want to change. They never do that. They do this in a lot of other business nowadays.
That's
yes,
true.
they do.
That's
Mostly in the
supermarkets,
grocery business. and things.
food, frozen foods, the baby food salesman. We used to do that in the grocery
The
business.
drug business, they don't do that.
They don't?
No, I don't believe so. Because I remember working down the pharmacy at the hospital, the salesman would come in and ask her if she needed anything.
Well, that's a hospital pharmacy. That's where they're trying to feel important, you know, by being the one who writes the orders. The guy in business ain't got time for that a lot of times. This, you know, to a certain degree, they're feeling important by doing it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You see. Whereas,
Sure.
you know, you're in a certain business, you ain't got time, you get to afford the luxury of being the big shot and writing the orders and checking, you see. And this isn't the only reason, but it's one of them, I'll bet. Because in the sense that, you know, they're the guys that have to take inventory. Now, I worked with a guy in the package shop once, and Jesus, he was, you know, as I recall now, that guy was inventory taking happy. You know, he always said he didn't like it, but apparently he never, you know, he was always taking inventory, and you apparently can lose a lot of money in that damn fool business too if you know, that's
Well, doesn't the government control a certain amount of that too? You have to, don't they have to report a certain amount to the government and so forth, that it has to be accurate? Accurate?
No, we do. Not
You
them.
do, they don't have to?
No, wholesaler reports.
Even in this big place, you know, with this, you know, this guy that we've been talking about, I forgot his name. Pendolari. He sells cases. You mean he still will, you know, figure out how much cases he needs and he'll have it ready for you?
That's right. He calls.
He don't
as a
make
matter
you-
of fact, he calls on the telephone.
Well, in that Blatz thing, they describe that you're supposed to go in.
Well, that's beer. Now, see, you get two things separate here. Beer. If I was strictly a beer salesman, a lot of beer salesmen, we were just selling beer. We would go into the back room and check the guy's inventory. You know, and then come out and say, you get so many 8.6s, you get so many quarts, you get so many of this, and I think you could use this and this and this. Beer, fine. But when you're selling beer and liquor, it's a little different story, you see. You don't exercise that prerogative because a lot of them don't like to let you see what they carry in inventory in liquor because it's so competitive.
I see, and that if
You take 10 cases of liquor as a point, it's $500. 10 cases of beer is $35. You see the difference?
But why don't you guys then, you know, go and do the checking of inventory on the beer and then go to the guy? I mean, I can understand now why he wouldn't want you to check his liquor inventory.
Because you have too many items to sell. You couldn't spend the time only in unusual circumstances, only in spotty incidences. Actually, the ideal situation is to have two separate sales organizations. If we ever got to the point where we were big enough, we would have a liquor and wine division and a beer division.
I see. Now, do you think that place out there, you know, the waterfall place out there, the Maple Beer Company,
Collins.
they only sell beer, right?
Strictly beer.
Do their beer salesmen do like the Blatz guys and they go find out for themselves?
No, because the distributor handles their beer and also sells liquor.
I suspect something sneaky on you guys' part, that you don't go and check the beer yourself because you want to have a chance to spend as much time as you can with the owner in the hope of selling more liquor.
That's
You're
right.
using your beer as a leader for liquor sales.
That's right. An important thing is that if you have a fast-selling beer, if you have a good-selling beer, it's your leader that'll get you into all the stores, and it gives you that opening of the door to come in with other things.
So actually, it begins to look to me as if you guys aren't that much interested in selling more Rhiengold beer, but more interested in the better use of Rhiengold beer to sell liquor.
At this particular point, we're more interested in selling Rhiengold beer because we're losing money with Rhiengold beer. But we're interested also in Rhiengold beer being a good seller because, believe it or not, you can make more money with your beer and wine items than you can with your liquor because your liquor requires so much money being tied up in inventory. And it's a slower turnover, actually.
Well, maybe, has it ever occurred to anybody besides me that maybe you'd be better off to at least consider using the liquor as a leader to sell beer than to be using the beer as a leader to sell liquor?
No, because not all liquor wholesalers sell beer.
No, but if it's true that your main feeling about, you want some aspirin?
No.
You want-
It'll take the pain away.
When are they gonna lance it?
Tomorrow, I think, if I can get it down.
What, how can you do for something like that? God damn it.
I can't put my hand down, and it really drives me nuts. That's all right. Go ahead and talk. That's all right.
All right. Is it possible that, you know, the attitude toward Rhiengold, which we wouldn't call Rhiengold, has been more, that you've been using Rhiengold as a leader to a degree that it interferes with sales? That the salesmen are, you know, approaching it from the point of view of, not, you know, that the Rhiengold has too much importance as a leader and that it's hurting the sales. I think it could hurt the sales. I mean, I don't know quite how, but...
Hit the sales of liquor?
No, if you use a product as a leader,
Beer is your leader.
see, the same way that if you're interested more in getting credit than you are in the growth of business, the growth of business will tend to suffer. The same way, if you're interested more in using beer as a leader, whether you know it or that you're doing it or not, than you are in selling the beer won't sell quite as well. Because it is, you know, the sales are not to sell beer so much as to sell beer, but to use it as a leader.
Well, I don't think in this particular case, because it's never been a leader. We've been trying to develop it as a
But beer sales in general, have you people always used them as a leader?
Well, we've never been in the full beer and liquor business until recently.
Oh, I see. Did you used to automatically, you know, figure out the orders yourself and say to the poor guy that you have to work on it?
In most of the cases, yes.
But you've shifted. This is a policy shift.
Yes, you've had the shift. And I think it's gotten more so that way on the part of the customer, too, himself, not wanting the men to get into the back room.
I was wondering about that when I read that black, how many people would object to that.
Yes, because especially when all this swindling was going on, you know, all this chiseling and so forth, and they didn't want the salesmen to know who they were swindling with or what they were doing, you know.
Yeah.
And more or less kept them away from us.
Yeah.
You see, a lot of that's written from out in the Midwest. If you follow that Pabst Blabs thing, they have what they call truck salesmen. You know, fellas who, like a Pepsi Cola salesman, fellas around here. When they jump off the truck, they come in and check your inventory, and they're both salesman and truck driver.
Yeah.
Out west, they have most of their beer houses operate that way. He's a
I
salesman and driver.
Now,
He delivers the beer, makes the display, sells right off the truck.
and you don't do that.
No, we pre-sell it. In other words, the salesman goes out, picks up the order, brings it back to the office. The order is made up, and then it's delivered.
All right. Now, this puts a little too much importance on the order. You know, especially, let's say, if the guy has, on that day you got the order, he's been a little bit on the, you know, on the no side, you know? And that, see, whereas the guy, you know, that's driving the delivery and is selling, you know, he's making a lot of deliveries frequently, you know, each time he has a chance to go in and the guy, you know, may be in a better mood. And that, for example, I don't know whether it'd be better to, when your men deliver it, they'll have a few extra cases and say, is it going to be enough or whatever, I don't know. That's, but I still think that, you know, what you're doing is different than any other blast, and I can see the reasons for it, and, you know, I didn't know that anyhow. This is different.
You also have a law in the state that you can't peddle beer. You have to have a written order.
Oh, so you got a legal thing there too.
Yes.
All right. Now, do you have Carboni, you know, company order blanks to make it convenient for them?
Yes. For the salesman. Order pads.
No, for the
Retailers.
The retailers? No. They would just use it.
have a lot of those
They
things.
would just use it as scrap paper.
I know.
So it's for their health, their use. They're getting some use out of it.
You mean you say you go through the expense of printing up order books and give it to the customers and have them use it?
No.
Oh, no, Rhiengold do it.
No, you know those books like the Taylor Wines have down those pieces of paper with the...
Yes.
And you have several other things I've noticed, pads with advertising
Well,
on
we
them.
give them to the customers, yeah.
Oh, that's what you meant.
It doesn't say C. Carbonia. It's
No,
just,
it doesn't say
the
C.
products that we handle, like LaRue and Taylor Wines, and
Mm-hmm.
Labatt's, and a few of those other things.
Yeah.
Of course, if you take only a Pendolari, he takes the Rhiengold ballots and uses them for scratch paper. I mean, besides leaving the ballots, having ballots available for the people to vote
You're
for,
going to have a hell of a time figuring out who you voted for. in those guys.
he uses the pads, tips them over, and makes his notes on it.
It's all right, it's his convenience.
For his convenience, yes. But if the brewery with that, they'd scream.
No, they wouldn't. Not necessarily.
Using that ballot paper for scrap paper?
Don't they know how much of those ballots are wasted?
Yeah. And that you know what? There's another reason.
That's why they've been a little stricter this year.
Well, it becomes not meaningless if they use it too promiscuously. But in a way, if this old business, first salesman, he couldn't figure out how come he sold. Well, this guy gave him hell and said he'd never buy anything, got cheated and so forth. If a customer treats you like a piece of shit, and you don't reply in kind, that they treat you like they're the king and you're dirt, the scales will tip the other way if you handle it right. So a certain amount of being misused will actually help sales, I think. Huh? I think it's true. But I was wondering whether, in some way making it easier for the goddamn customer to order. And, you can slant it a little bit in your own favor when you do that. I don't know. Because, you mean the customers don't consider it a real task and a bore to go around taking inventory all the time?
No, a lot of them have a pad or a book in which they write the orders down, And they go around, they check them, they show and so forth, and they write Bernardi, they write the other companies, and they have it in the book. And that they give you the order, they go, check, see? And then after, they have a page full of the various companies that they do business with, after all the check marks are off, they know that they've ordered from everybody, that's it. And if there's a mistake, they always look back in that book and say, well, I ordered this and you sent me that.
All right. But they don't consider it a task, a bore, and so forth, huh?
No, they don't seem to. What I've been able to. Problem that some of them always take into consideration is they're trying to divide the business. There's so many salesmen calling on them that they more or less trying to divide it.
For some reason, they hate to say no to any salesman, is that right?
That's true, Jim.
Why is that? What the hell, are they humanists or humanitarians or something?
Because they're selling themselves, perhaps, like Don. People can more easily sell Don than they can me, because he in turn sells.
You mean anyone who sells gets a kind of, they don't like to turn down a salesman?
That's right. They sell to get sympathetic to what they say.
Huh?
Yes, it's a certain amount of sympathy.
They can understand the salesman's point of view.
Yeah. And this puts them in a position in terms of, they're the court of last appeal for all the salesmen, and, people come and beg them, they feel a bit of, the big cheese this way, and they're doling out,
I think the main thing is to see if you can't get that little extra out of them. That's the problem, I think. See if we can't get that little extra out of each customer.
Yeah.
Ways of doing that. Ways of finding.
But you wouldn't want too much for some reason, because this would interrupt their kingdom, so to speak. How would you like to have a bunch of people coming to you and please don't throw me out of business, which is what each guy says, I suppose.
True. But I think that if we can get that little extra out of each store, then it would all add up to a good size amount. I mean, we get our regular business, but then get that little.
Why don't you try to get all the business from some guys?
We do.
No, but it sounds to me as if you yourself wouldn't want to throw the other guys out of business too much either. Is there a sort of self-protective society in mind?
No. I would like to get all the business from every store.
I've heard Don say, I like to kick so-and-so's business out of that joint entirely and have mine exclusively in there. I don't think he feels sympathetic for the other wholesalers.
But is there a tendency on the part of the tavern owner and so
There's a
forth?
tendency on the part of the guy that owns the place is he'll say, well, what are you, getting hungry? You want all the business? You know?
So that when you say that you'd like a little increase, you know, you're just simply giving in to the reality that you start going for more, that they start this hungry business.
No, my point is this, that if you can get a little bit more out of each store, that each time you get a little bit more, before you know it, the man is giving you most of the business without him realizing it.
But why are you so worried about us realizing it? If he realizes it,
Because he has a personal affinity against it, for some reason or other.
Aha! Oh, that's all I want to say. All right. You mean that this guy, most guys, customers, they resent, you know, being unfair. What they maybe they feel unfair. Well, it's only fair. You only get your fair share. I mean, they're quick to call you hungry if you try for too much.
And wouldn't you also say that your fair share also depends upon the demand of your product?
That's true, the product you're selling.
But this, almost every guy you've ever run into, if you push for too hard, they'll start saying, well, you're getting hungry? Is that what they'll say?
Generally speaking. But there are those that'll go with you, practically 100%, and give you all the business that they can.
But most of them, almost all, have some degree that, you know, they, like they're doling out, you know, like a papa to their kid, you know. And they expect each guy to be satisfied, and they have almost fun with it, even though it might be better for their business to buy more in one kind or another, that they enjoy this kind of prestige position of being the buyer, so to speak. You know?
Keeping your business going.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that right? That they're kind of,
That's right.
yeah. Do you get told very often, don't be too hungry?
What's that?
Do you get
Me?
told?
No.
Does Mario?
I don't know.
No. All right. Do the salesmen?
Yes, at times. That's the reply they give me. I mean, sometimes I tell them, you know, talking to a customer, asking for other items that another salesman sells. See, it'd be different if we had exclusives. But you see, there's always a dual relationship. You have another wholesaler selling the same brands that you're selling, with the exception of some items like Rhiengold beer were exclusive. And,
Oh, you don't have it? Oh, I didn't know that.
oh, yeah, that's right.
Covering the same territory.
That's right. You have sometimes there's 4 different wholesalers selling the same brands that you are in the same territory. Generally speaking,
For almost everything you have?
yeah. Generally speaking, 2 or 3. With the exception, as I say, of the beer. Most beer, all beer, as a matter of fact, it's found that they go on an exclusive arrangement territory. And wine.
But liquor not.
No.
Well, you know, you mean that, what do they need a wholesaler for? Why can't these guys buy directly from the companies?
Distributional and accounts receivables.
You mean it'd be too much money or something, or?
Sure, they'd have to carry the receivables and then they'd have to have a distributional setup. If they bought direct from the company, the company would have to have a salesman representing them. They would have to have trucks, drivers, and helpers. Then they would also have to have a credit department to carry the credit that they've extended them. And it can be costly, so why should they get involved in direct distribution?
Oh,
They're getting away from it. They used to do some of it, but they're getting away from it.
all right. Now tell me this, let me ask this question, that, you ever give away business, you know, when they start, you know, looking at you, wait a minute, you're hungry? You say, no, oh, I'm hungry. Tell you what I want you to do, I want you to give Joe so-and-so, you know, this business because Abbott, you know, he needs it, he's better equipped with that line, and that, you know, we decide no use cutting all that business, let him have it. You see, well, here's what we want you to buy from us, and unknown to him, you know, you know, you're selling what, you know, you'll make more profit from.
No, the only way we do anything like that is that if a man asks for a brand that we don't have, we'll say, well, Joe Dokes is a salesman for that. He carries that brand. If you'd like, I'll give him the order. That's as far as it's gone.
All right. You can't give exclusive to any of your customers, can you, on certain lines?
You know, tell a customer he has
Yeah.
exclusive, you won't sell to the store down the street. If you sell
Because some
inside.
other wholesaler will come in and sell it.
That's right. Oh, you can have some things that you directly import yourself that you have exclusively. I mean, we import wines from Italy under our own label. We have exclusively. We could go to a store and say, this is yours exclusively.
Yeah.
But it's no good to do that particular kind of arrangement.
All right. The problem is really, you know, let's say if you compare the salesman from each, you know, wholesaler with kind of the kids in a family, how to get a better, you know, increase one's own share.
That's right.
And at the times, the damn tavern owners, you know, the retail owners, they sound like a bunch of, boy, they're going to practice democracy and equal sharing, or they're kind of, they're against any sibling favoritism or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, this kind of thing.
Yes.
Is there different things different companies offer? I mean, do some offer better service, some offer better deals, or I mean?
Yes, better deals, better service, or different gimmicks. I think in the final analysis, it's the image of the company and the salesman.
Yeah, all right. Are most guys, retailers, doing fairly well, doing lousy, what? I mean,
Most of them are generally doing fairly well.
do they have a problem pretty much too that the minute they start getting a little bigger, somebody opens a tavern across the street, or is this limited by
No,
law?
it's limited by law. There are only so many licenses. Now, they're sort of in a semi-monopolistic position.
And you guys aren't too much, are you? There's no limitation by law on the number of wholesalers?
No. I mean, the limits them is the capital expenditure.
Yeah, yeah. In general, are your prices as low as other people's and so forth and so on?
Oh yes, they're competitive, but you might have a different brand from a different company that we don't carry.
Yeah.
You see, all our brands that the other wholesalers have are usually posted at the same basis, posted at the same level.
Yeah.
Because by law they are allowed to post the same prices as we are. They can amend to us.
Yeah.
But if, for example, a brand of whiskey like, say, Old Granddad is selling at a $2 or $3 less than the brand that I have, I mean, that's when I'm at a disadvantage. It's a brand I don't have that another wholesaler has.
And so in that kind of case, you would have to rush in with special advertising displays, you know, so that they would get the Old Granddad, or you'd be in trouble. This is
Either that or you have to try to sell them a bill of goods on the items that you have. That in the long run yours would be better, or
you mean you've got a big enough display, big enough variety that you could almost even get them confused by, you know, reviewing everything, so to speak. And
that's true.
is it right? I mean, you've got a lot of flexibility there. It's something like the problem of, you know, those gals. Now this is an image that comes to mind that might be useful in your advertising for the company, for Carboni. You know those goddamn television ads on ring, 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 Avon calling.
Yeah.
Now they're smart. You know, boy, you know, that they're going to show you this tremendous variety, see? You know, by God, that, you know, I sit there, I'm hoping, you know, for a...
Ring, ring, ring on the door?
Hey, how come I feel cheated, you know? They got their approach down so that it's, boy, you just think of the lucky customer getting the goods of the world brought to their doorstep. And it reminds me, you know, you got such variety, see, that you could pass, you know, troublesome items, you could pass right by in a sense, you see, and that you got the real chance there to both hornswoggle them, you know, and at the same time, you know, sensing better, you know, what the hell they'd be interested in. You got a lovely variety, you know, you can, I suppose a good Avon salesman, you know, she senses what the hell to go, the order of presentation, where to go from here to there, and knowing that she's going to have so much time only, and that you begin to get a feel for when to leave an item alone, not waste time with it. The guy's more interested that week for some reason, I don't know, in this
That's
kind of
true.
thing or that kind of thing, see? Fair?
That's true.
Yeah. And that, I didn't realize that you have such a variety, you know, well, they are in a sense comparable with fine cosmetics, you know, that with each guy you might even say, you know, you got Jesus, you're going over your orders like, God damn it, hey, that reminds me, boy, I was thinking of you when we were looking over this. This is for you. Or I don't know.
Yeah.
This kind of, that to start to analyze a little bit of, think of it in terms of imagery of Avon if you want. Because, hell, there are a lot of cosmetic people, but they got it built, so Jesus, people are, they got a different attitude. They're not thinking in terms of Avon, of giving every cosmetic salesman an equal break. They get that thing how lucky they are that somebody's calling. Okay? And I read something cute the other day in an organization, man, about some community where, Jesus, there was no friendliness, where people weren't getting to meet each other. And it was a development kind of thing. And you know what started it off? Geez, they're fine now. Well, those Stanley parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got to the point where, Jesus, they were so appreciative, each one wanted to be hosted. But this started off, you see, and that the same way that, you may have a chance to start some retailer off. To add more emphasis on what the hell will match this goddamn store. I mean, and if you think yourself more as, you've got such a variety that instead of just reviewing them, you kind of highlight there. You look over the past records of his sales, so where he ain't selling something worth shit, hey, that damn location ain't going to sell it. He's got some kind of a sociological bunch of characters there as customers that just don't buy that stuff. And that, you have to sense it for him, or, he's got personal feelings against old granddad, and that, instead of selling him, I got the clue from what you said, that you, see, geez, this is a, kind of a guy, who thinks modern, and old granddad drives him crazy, this kind of thing. And then, another thing that occurred to me earlier, I just want to mention quickly is, geez, I'm surprised that you run a beer and wine company without having beer breaks. And without the time during the day, you have, some glass of Rhiengold. I was wondering what the hell the effect would be in the organization, Jesus, if you kind of without, making a big fuss about it, at first, just once in a while, have a glass of beer.
In the warehouse office, you mean, Mike?
To have, a little something to serve there. If you really believe that beer is like that article says, it's part of life, you see. Instead of something that only for evenings or for, for when you want to be naughty or something. I went to the Coca-Cola place, my car broke down there. They got Coke machines there, and she got a supply of free Cokes for people coming to visit. I don't know what the hell, when you go to a cigarette place, I'll bet they have free cigarettes. I mean, if anyone comes to your office, I don't know whether it would be wise to, practice what you preach.
Well, we have beer always in the cooler. That's always available. Like the time there when you come.
Yeah, I have some.
Yeah. And we.
But when you're looking over your papers, whether, it might be wise to kind of try it and watch it. I wouldn't say much, but just, we'll have a glass, a little tray.